So I thought I'd show you how I package my paintings for posting, because it's something that I've been asked before by friends who paint. Basically, once I've wrapped the painting fully, made it watertight, it's got protection, got bubble wrap, it's got corners on, I get a big box that is a normal box, and I open one whole side once it's been flattened. So this particular box did happen to have a side seam, as well as these were the original flaps, but it could be any size as long as you open it fully, and ideally the original flaps wouldn't go lower than the painting that you want to deliver, although it's not the end of the world if it does rub by an inch or two, because you'll be taping it. I've got the ruler. I'm just going to see how high it needs to be for a score, so that I can fold that side down so it's completely flush with my glass and my framed picture, because I don't want any rattling. So I always make custom boxes every time, so that there's no flapping about inside the box. I have just taped the glass down to the foam board with the framed picture inside. The reason I didn't put the glass inside the foam with the frame is because it's super fragile, and I don't want, if anything does shatter, I don't want it to damage the frame. So it is separate. Unfortunately, the cardboard I had isn't completely the same size as the foam board. I just couldn't get hold of anything. It's locked down, so I didn't have a great deal of options. But I have taped this as well as another protective measure, because I don't want anything sliding around. The whole idea of the custom box is that nothing slides around. I have scored the inside of that corner, so you can see, and I put pressure on it. I took the painting out and I put pressure on it to bend it. This box is 2-ply, it's double ply, so you can see, actually, this isn't the great side to see it, but you can see that it's actually double layered. So if you can get hold of a box like that for posting framed pictures especially, you can also get 3-ply. And I reuse boxes. I get them from Tesco or people who have had deliveries. If I've had deliveries for various things, I just keep the boxes and then break them up. I have scored along this edge. It's quite annoying because actually this edge is just shy of this. So normally I'd actually have adjusted it at that end so that it was exact, just to avoid that. But you can make a flap to join this, so it's fine. So I use the ruler again to see how high it's hitting. I don't go off the actual painting because that's too low. It needs to be so that it sits properly, so you can create an actual box. So I use the ruler to get the right height for scoring. I try and use the corrugated lines as a ruler. So you can either use your ruler or the corrugated line to follow for when you're cutting with your knife, and I just use one of these. If you've ever done origami, you know that it's all your folds and corners are all about the pressure and precision you make with your cuts and bends on the folds. So I bend it right over, put pressure so that it follows along, and using that corrugated line means it's always on the same partition, which means you get a much cleaner fold, so it's like a proper box. So this is the box before I put any tape or on this side. What I am going to do is I'm going to lift the painting out and I'm going to pack it with some of that stuff over there, just so that there is nothing, there's no air left in the box. And by that I mean like there's gaps. So all of this I'm going to fill with that packaging, and then I'm going to slip it back inside. I am going to cut off this flap here all the way along, just so that I've got this small excess. I personally like to use duct tape because it's a lot stronger than parcel tape. So although I've used parcel tape inside, for this particular box I want to use duct tape outside. So all the scores for all these edges were actually on the inside. I don't think I mentioned that before, because you don't want the scores on the outside. You want the scores on the inside of wherever you're folding, because that's where the gap needs to go to allow you to fold. So I'm now scoring along here right up to the edge of the painting inside, well, the foam board, so that it's completely in line with what's inside, so there's again no space for that to rattle around at all. And I have already filled the painting with all the bits that were in that corner. So here you can see I've cut down the sides of this side, trying not to push the painting down at the same time against the other side, I mean, because it's still open. So I'm trying to keep it in place while I'm doing. So to make this fold a bit easier, I just scored inside here very carefully with my knife, just a little bit. Same that side, and pushed it in. I'm probably going to make this top side a bit shorter than the other side, just so it sits gently inside this one. So what I've just done, and I can't do both at the same time because otherwise I can't show you, is I've used a pen at an angle and pushed it against the edge and run it along the edge, so that when I move the painting I know where I'm scoring. Same at the bottom, so I've already done it. I've flipped the painting around. I've scored, this was the bottom side, so I've flipped it around. I've pushed this up, and because my pen line for the top side wasn't great, as you can see, it didn't actually draw. I can only see a really faint outline, so I've made proper marks using a ruler. Again, like just pushing it up at a 90-degree angle. Basically, I just make sure that it is actually meeting that corner that I've scored. So when I push that in, it's going to be, that line is actually on there, and then the painting is going to sit straight onto that, because like I say, I've just pushed it forward, but it will fall back down onto that. And then I make sure that it's upright when I do the next bit, so that it definitely is sitting directly on this side. So all my edges are cut on this side that I was working on. I've flipped it up so that I can really push this corner home, and then I'm gonna tape this down so you can see all these corners meet, because I've made sure that all the folds and scores are along one line in the cardboard, so it's completely straight. I mean, obviously it's never going to look perfectly straight, but it's as straight as you need it to be. So I'm going to get this taped down with duct tape, and I'll be back. So what I do to make this a bit easier is I get a strip that you can rip duct tape, that's the other really good thing, attached to one flap on one side, just very, very lightly. And then I make sure I'm pushing this completely home when I actually flatten it and seal the edge onto the other flap. This one, I didn't quite manage to get it like halfway in between each flap. I've put a bit too much on there and probably not enough on there, because it's right on that corner. I don't want it to actually undo. Probably won't because it's duct tape, but just to be certain, I'm gonna just put a bit more on this side. So this is what I mean about putting it lightly on without actually sealing it. So now I'm pushing, I'm doing this really badly, 100, and I'm trying not to just go along sideways. I'm pulling that way and pushing that way. And I'm just going to repeat all of that on this side, except I'm going to keep this inside. So I've finished the box. The reason I'm not totally taping it up now is because I am going to slide a little thank you note to the buyer in here before I actually post it. I think I'm probably going to put the double flap inside on top of the end flaps, and then put the shorter one over the top when I seal, so I can just get it nice and neatly in the middle. And that's it. I use a red Sharpie to write fragile both sides in huge letters. So let's do that. Fragile. And then the courier can't miss it. There we go. And I do the same the other side. And I'll stick the label where I've peeled the old one off. If there's tons of labels, then pulling the old ones off will destroy it. I tend to cover them with duct tape so that I can still use the box, but hide the old address. It's actually a good idea to put a please return if lost address on here, so I will put that label on here. But yeah, you don't want any kind of like confusion with what the delivery address should be, so I always recommend trying to remove the original labels or using them on the inside of the box. So turn it around and just fold the flaps the other way if you're going to be trying to use the original flaps like I was, except I must have nudged the painting, so I got the bits a bit wrong. But it's savable. I can still use this box and it's like a perfect fit now. So literally there is no gaps in that, so they can chuck it around with all that padding, nothing's going to happen. I use super sticky labels for the labels, and I print them out so that I know it's definitely going to stay on. That's my last little thing. Obviously I'm showing it at an angle so I don't show their details.